Hello and welcome to this recording for SAM Project's Excel 3. Log into the SAM website with your student account. Big red's the student account that I'm using here. And not the calendar view, but switch to the activity list view and find the project in your list of available projects. Excel 3 is the one we're doing. You're allowed 5 submission attempts, and this is our first attempt. The steps for submitting a project are 1, 2, 3, download instructions, download a start file, and then upload your solution. So we'll download the instruction file first. And mine are saved on the desktop. Where yours are saved or how they open depends on the functionality of your browser, not the SAM site. So we open up the instructions and we get the yellow bar for protected view. I'm going to enable editing. I trust the file coming from the SAM site. Now look at these instructions. There's some getting started steps to make sure of. First of all, you're going to open up the solution file. It's going to be SCEX16 3A for this third project. It'll be your student name and _1, and you're going to save it by changing the only thing you're going to change is the _1 to an _2. You also make sure that your name appears in cell B6 on that file, and when you have the name changed and your name's in cell B6, you're ready to begin the project. So let's go ahead and do that. So here it is, EX16 3A student name _1. So I'm going to open up that file. And then when I open that file, get the yellow bar for protection mode. I can say enable editing because I protect the source. I do see the name, student name, big red there on the documentation page on cell B6. But I want to do a file save as to change the name. And you can change the name any number of ways. You can change it from the desktop. You can change it doing save as, however you do it. Just make sure that when you're done, the file that you're editing is your student name _2 for this EX163A, SCEX163A. Okay, now we're ready to do the project. First step on the project. Charlie is a salesman at Pickup Motor Car Dealership. He is performing a detailed analysis of his sales for the first half of 2018, including presenting his sales and commission with graphs. So switch to the 2018 January to June sales worksheet, and then remove the panes from the worksheet. And they're telling you that what that means is to deselect the split option from the View tab. So let's go to the 2018 January to June sales. And what we'll see is we've got these panes in here, and we want to remove those panes. The hint told us to deselect the split from the View tab. So on the ribbon, using the View tab, in the Windows group, there's a split option, and it's already selected. I'm going to click it to deselect it and remove that split view. Going back to our Word document to get our next step. Step 2 for this project is to freeze rows 1 and 2. And they're telling you to go ahead and select cell A3 before freezing the panes. So let's go back to our sheet, select cell A3, and we're going to freeze rows 1 and 2 so that as we scroll down, those first 2 rows will always stay visible to us. We do that by going into the freeze panes. It's still in the same View tab, the freeze panes option. And as I look at this, I can freeze the top row, the first column, but in this case I want to freeze multiple cells. So I'm going to select freeze panes. And what you'll see is as I scroll down, that those rows 1 and 2 are staying fixed. And that can be nice as you want to see data lower in your sheet and you scroll off the column headers. So that can be a nice thing when you have a lot of data. Step 3 says to change the width of column A to be 31. Do not use AutoFit. So column A here, AutoFit is when you double click. And when you double click it, AutoFits to the size that you want. They're telling us not to do that. The other way to change it is to just resize it by hand. You can try to guess and it shows you what the size is as you're doing it. But the easiest way is to right click on the column and say column width, and you get a pop-up dialog and you can type in exactly the value you want, 30. And you know you've got exactly that value there rather than trying to resize it by hand. Oops, sorry, 31. Column width of 31. Sorry about that. You probably saw that as I typed it in. Select the range B4 to D4, and then using the fill handle, fill the range E4G4 with consecutive months. So select B4D4 and then fill handle to E4G4. So B4D4, and then I'm going to use the fill handle to copy these months that are missing. So we've got January, February, March, and Excel is smart enough to know to copy those. Oops, if I'm copying it right, I've got to click the fill handle. The cursor will change to that little arrow key, and it's smart enough to know, and you can even see the little hints are popping up. April, May, and the little hint is telling us June. The values are going to be there when I release it, and it does in fact type in April, May, and June into those cells. Step 5 of this project says that in cell H5, create a column Sparkline based on the data in the range B5 to G5. Then copy the Sparkline in cell H5 down to the range H6 to H9. So switching back to Excel, in cell H5, we want to create a Sparkline, a column Sparkline. So that's in the Insert tab, Home, Insert, View. We want to do the Insert tab, and there's a Sparklines group, and they tell us specifically to do a column Sparkline. So with H5 selected, select column Sparklines, and this dialog box asks us for the range that we want to select. If I remember, it was B to G. Let's confirm that that's right. Yes, B5 to G5. So we want to select B5. Now I can type this in, B5:G5, but this little icon here is interesting. This allows us to jump back into our sheet and select. Whoops. It allows us to jump into our sheet, and I can drag over B5G5. So I could have just typed in B5G5, or I can use that search and do it that way. And I press that in. Okay, and then we're good there. H5 is our location. That's where we want it. We type it in, and it shows us the data for those selected cells visually in real time. Kind of a neat thing. And then we copy this down by grabbing the fill in the lower right-hand corner and copying it down to, I think, column 8 or column 9, H9. Okay, so we go all the way down to H9. Step 6 says, using the Format Painter, copy the formatting from the range G5G9 to H5H9. So G5G9 is right here, and I'm going to do the Format Painter, and I'm going to copy the formatting. Okay. So we'll say Format Painter, and then we select here and copy the formatting. So it still left those spark lines. We have the alternating bands of dark and light green, and then the that other color, orangish color, tannish color for the background there. Copy the contents of the range B4G4 to the range B12G12. So B4G4 is right here, and we're going to copy that, the contents there. So I'm going to do a copy. I can do the control copy or go under the home copy, however I want to do this. I'm going to place that into B12G12 and then paste it by doing Control V for paste, or by doing the paste option from the menu. Apply the percentage number format with 0 decimal places to the range B13G13 and B33. So B13G13 and B33. Now the way we do a non-adjacent select is you select the one set of cells and then take your hand off the keyboard and the mouse, press and hold the control key, and do another select. So I have both these non-adjacent, non-contiguous cells selected at the same time. And then our instructions are to apply percentage number format with 0 decimal places. So we do that in the home group. We do the percentage number format. We can do it from the drop-down list here and find percentage, or we could click on the percentage from the shortcut there. Should be the same either way. And by default, it comes up with 0 decimals. If I needed to change the decimals, I could do it by doing the increase and decrease decimal amounts. Select the merged range, so A15 to A27, it says in these instructions are already merged, and rotate the cell contents to 90 degrees. And they're telling us the text should read from bottom to top when we have 90-degree rotation. A15 to A27. So A15 to A27, that's already merged, so I just click anywhere in that area and the whole thing's selected. And I want the text to be rotated up. So rotate text up. Is that the right option? Make sure I'm saying this right. No, rotate the text 90 degrees. Okay, I'm sorry. So we want to rotate this text. We do it this way. Sorry. I think it's going to have the same effect, but I want to do the instructions precisely. I think rotating up would have the same effect. But by clicking on the More option in the lower right-hand corner, I get to the Format Cells dialog box with the number, alignment, and font tabs. And in the Alignment tab, I can say specifically degrees. And right now, it's already at 15 degrees. I can change this to be 90 degrees. And I'm pretty sure that if I'd have done the rotate up, it would have been the same effect. But it's good to see that that more detailed information under the alignment more information option. In the stacked column chart, with the title of Monday Sales per vehicle type, add month as the primary horizontal axis title and sales amount as the primary vertical axis title. So month and sales amount for the stacked column chart. So here is the bar chart, and we're making the month as the horizontal. So select chart, and in the chart tools tab, ribbon tab will appear. Under the design option on the far left hand column for the left part of the ribbon for a column chart, we can edit these things. So for example, the horizontal and vertical axis. So by clicking this, it adds the horizontal axis. And I need to type in the text here. Let me remember what it was, month. And I can do the same thing, then select off of that. So I have a horizontal axis and do the same thing under the design tab, add the chart element of titles for a vertical axis. And our vertical axis text is sales amount. Okay. Step 11. In the stacked column chart, change the number format of the vertical axis to be accounting style with 0 decimal places. So the number format for the vertical axis. So we select the numbers here on the vertical axis. We right click and say format the axis. And in the format axis dialog, there's some options here, and at the bottom of these is number. If it's not exposed, you can click on the arrow to expose the number, and we can specify currency with $2 is what we currently have, and we're supposed to change that to, I believe the request was for accounting with 0 decimal places. So I'm going to change this from currency to accounting. We're going to change it from 2 decimal places to 0 decimal places. Okay. And when we press enter on that, we'll see that we now have the values per the instructions. In the 3D pie chart, change the chart title to be Style 1. So the 3D pie chart, and there's the name for our 3D pie chart so it matches in case there was any confusion. Change the style. So again, select the chart, and there's a design tab and a format tab. And in the format tab, in the design tab, our styles appear, and the first one is Style 1. You see the pop-up context hint tells us that. Add data labels to the 3D pie chart using the outside end style. So with it selected, chart elements, data labels, outside end. And you'll notice that my chart is showing those percentages on the outside, right? Outside end, they would be inside end, and all these different options, but outside end is the one that we're instructed to do and looks good. Charlie wants to calculate his gross monthly sales commissions. The rule is that he receives a commission of 2.5% of his total monthly sales if he sold more than 400,000 worth of vehicles. Otherwise, he gets only 1.5% of his total monthly sales. In cell B31, create a formula using the if function to check whether the value in cell B9 is greater than 400,000, and then if the condition is true, multiply the value in B9 by 2.5%, B9 times 0.025. If the condition is false, multiply the value in B9 times 0.015, and then copy the formula across the ranges C to G. So cell B31, 2.5% is our test case for doing this. So B31, we're checking B9. Let's go down to B31. So here it is, and we're comparing it with B9, which is this value up here, the total. And we do this using an if statement. So inside the cell, we type equals if, and then we hit a left parenthesis, and we see the pop-up context is telling us that there are 3 arguments, commas, separate items in a list. The first argument, the one that's bold right now because we're getting ready to type it, is the logical test. And we want to know if this value is greater than 250,000, comma. Now if I go back down here and look at my little hint, now that I typed a comma, the thing that's bolded because I'm ready for the second item in the list, commas separate items in a list, the true value. And the true value is B9 times 2.5%. And I'm going to type that in decimal notation. So 0.02, that'd be 2%, and 0.025 is 2.5%. Otherwise, it's B9. The false branch, if it's not greater than 250,000, the false branch is 1.5%, written in decimal notation. Okay. And that's what the instructions are saying there. 0.025, 0.015. That's doing percents without the percent sign, rather as a decimal. To convert from percent with the percent symbol to just a decimal, you move the decimal place 2 digits to the left. Tens place, hundreds place. Make sure I did that right. Oh, greater than 400,000. So let me go back here. This should be 400,000. Sorry. I know you probably noticed that when you're watching it, screaming at the computer screen. Thank you for catching that. I finally heard you. The sound made it to me now. Okay, so I press enter there. And in this particular case, what it's doing is it's testing B9. And because B9 is greater, it's using that true condition. I can't see that visually very well. But I know the way the if statement's working, and it is giving me that value. Copy that across through column G, so it's doing all of our calculations for all of those values. Step 15. After deductions, Charlie's net monthly commission is only 85% of his gross monthly commission. In cell B32, create a formula that multiplies the value in cell B31, his gross monthly, by the value in cell B33, his net commission percentage. Use an absolute reference in cell B33 because net commission won't change, and a relative reference in cell B31, and then copy the formula. Okay, so we're using in cell B32, we're doing a formula with B31 and B33. So in B32, we're using a formula that has B31 and B33. So we say equals this times this. Okay, and do a multiplication. Make sure I'm checking that. I'm going to put the absolutes in just a second, but making sure I've got this right. That value multiplied by B33. Okay, now they're saying we're getting ready to copy this value across. Now as I copy it, I want the reference to cell 31, the B31, to become C31, D31, E31, F31, G31. But the reference to cell B33, I want to stay fixed. I don't want it to copy. So I'm going to make this an absolute reference by placing a $sign in front of the B and a $sign in front of the 33, or using the shortcut key of F4. By just pressing F4, whatever cell the cursor is on, Excel types in the $signs for us. Now I could have just typed the $sign in manually as well. Type in a $sign, type in a $sign, same effect. It doesn't change the value. It's still 9,280.56. Right? That's the value didn't change, but by using that absolute reference, now when I drag the formula across, notice that the B33 is the same for all of these. That's what a absolute reference will do. when you're about to copy a formula and you have a cell that is fixed that's going to stay the same as you drag the formula across, you have to make sure that you put in the absolute reference for it. Step 16 says, in the range H31, H32, update the line Sparklines so that change the Sparkline type to be a column and change the Sparkline style to be style dark 4, fourth column, fifth row. Okay, for Mac users, it's going to be a different location. Depending on your version of Office, the Sparkline style may appear as black Sparkline style dark 4. Okay, H33, H31, H32. So here's H31 and H32. And we're going to change this from the current format, which is a line, to be a column style. So with those selected, up into the design, we're going to change this to be a column type instead of a line type. So that's the first part of our step. And the second part of our step is we're going to change the style to be fourth column, fifth row, style dark number 4. So fourth column, fifth row should be Sparkline style dark 4. Step 17, in the range A31 to A32, increase the indent of the cells once. A31 and A32. So here's A31 and A32. I'm going to increase the indent level. I do that under the Home tab in the alignment group. There is this increase indent and decrease indent options. The one with the arrow to the right is increase indent. I press it exactly once. Gives a nice little indentation there. Step 18 says, Charlie's goal is to make a net commission of $60,000 for the second half of 2018, July to December. Using the estimate that his gross commission rate will be an average of 2% in cell B37 across the second half of the year. So we're going to do this by selecting cell B39 and then use goal seek to determine what value B36 must be, so it is necessary to set up the value of cell B39 to be 60,000. Leave the result of the goal seek analysis as the new value for B36. So goal seek is going to change a cell's value to reach a target that we want to have. In this case, the target that we want to have is 60,000. So we select the cell that's going to have the value, and I want this value to be, go back here and see what it was, 60,000. So I'm going to do goal seek. Now goal seek is in the data tab under the what if analysis is where we have goal seek. So it's one level hidden. So do the goal seek. So make sure you select the cell where you want your value to go first. Then go in the data tab, what if analysis, goal seek. And it's going to allow you to say, set the cell, what cell, B39, to be the value, I believe it was 60,000. Let me go back and confirm that. 60,000, yes, by changing the value of cell B36. So I want to change the value, and I can type B36 in here. I can use this little arrow thing, click this, select B36, press enter, and it'll type it in for me. So typing B36 in there, the absolute isn't necessary, or it'll add the absolutes for you. And it runs a number of scenarios and goes through those scenarios until it finds the value we want. And we kind of saw that on the screen, and it ended up making it the case that it found this value that at 2% gives us this gross, which results in this net commission, which was our target, 60,000. In cell B40, insert a formula using the now function to enter the system current date into the cell, and then apply the short date number format. So month, day, year. B40 equals now. Oops. I had to put the arguments in there. I left off the parentheses. But we don't have any values inside those parentheses, but formulas, functions need the parentheses. And this is giving me a long format. So I can select the cell, go into the Home tab, and change this to be a short date, month, day, year format. Short date format. Our last step, step 20, says use the recommended chart tools to create a clustered column chart based on A30 to G32, and then do the following things to it. So let's do the chart first. Select the range A30 to G32 and create a clustered column chart. A30 to G32. We're going to insert a clustered column chart. So I can go into recommended charts, and clustered column will be one of our options, and ends up being the first option. I also could have gone into the more detailed versions there, but I'll just use this recommended first chart. All charts, clustered column, doesn't matter where you select it from. So we've added a clustered column chart. Now we want to make the following edits to this clustered column chart. Move the chart to its own sheet, and we're going to call this new sheet Commissions 2018. I'm going to go ahead and just copy that here as the name of the new chart sheet. If necessary, reposition the worksheet so it's located before the 2018 January-June sales worksheet. So make it a new sheet, and make sure it appears before the 2018 sheet. So select the chart. In the Chart Tools format, the Design tab to the far right, there is a Move Chart option. In the Move Chart option, we can call it a new sheet and give it a name. We can type that in or copy paste it. And if it wasn't already here before, they say tells before this, you can move the tabs around and make them change their locations. So make sure that the tab is positioned before the 2018 January-June sales. Use sales commission dash January to June 2018 and copy that as the chart title. So going into the clustered column chart, I'm going to make it sales commission January to June 2018. And in the clustered column chart, add month as the primary horizontal and commission as the primary vertical. So we did this earlier. Design, axis title horizontal month, and for axis title vertical commission. Your workbook should look like the final figure, so go down and make sure that everything looks similar. I see the pie chart with the lines on the outside. I see the month and the sales amounts on my horizontal axes there. I see my 60,000 goal seek. They've blurred out the value that you're supposed to have in B36. That's okay. They want you to figure that out using the goal seek, not just to type that in. I see that the colors of those, so everything looks good there. And the sheet we just created looks good, including the location of the tab. Save your changes, close Excel, and submit your work. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to save my changes, close Excel, and then I'm going to go back to my browser, and I'm going to upload that file for grading. I think it got logged out there accidentally. Let's go back in here to Excel 3. I still have 5 attempts because I haven't submitted. It's the submitting that counts it as attempt. So now I'm ready to submit this file, and there it is, the one we just worked on. We'll submit that. Hopefully we'll get 3 check marks. It means we submitted the correct file format. We can go into the reports page for Excel 3. If you have more than one, make sure you get the correct date and time, the most recent date and time, and click that report. And then I'll get a file that is report. Since this is my first attempt, report 1. My second attempt would be report 2, and so on. I'm going to save that and then open the report, and it adds a tab to the left of the documentation. It adds a graded summary report tab. At the very top here, it tells us our score, 100 out of 100. If you missed anything, you can go through the check marks. There'd be some red X's on the steps you missed, and you can go back to your file, not this file, but the other file, make those changes and resubmit your allowed 5 attempts per project.